Hey everybody, I'm ZM, and in this video I want to talk about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as it recently came out in theaters and I watched it just yesterday, so I thought it'd be fun to give you guys my initial reaction on the movie while it's still fresh on the mind. Now, this video won't be scripted or anything, it will be more so off the cuff, just giving you guys my opinions and thoughts of the movie, sort of like a discussion. And of course, I would love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments below of what you guys thought of the movie. So with that said, let's get into it. Now to start off, let's talk about one of the more controversial takes people had of the movie before it was even out, and that was with the casting. As when Nintendo first announced that Chris Pratt would be the voice of Mario, it seemed like an absolute joke. Funny enough, someone literally made that joke before Nintendo even made that announcement, making fun of the fact that Chris Pratt would be the voice of Mario, because you see him now as the run-of-the-mill Hollywood protagonist that you see in every movie. So, why not have him also be the voice of Mario? And it's hilarious Nintendo went that direction. But it's a good thing to say that when watching the movie, it actually worked. I feel like the trailers didn't do him justice, as throughout the trailers I feel like we kind of heard him do a very bad impression of Mario, but throughout the actual movie he had a normal voice with no accent, and that really worked because I feel like the direction they gave Mario and his personality fit not having an accent, because I feel like it'd be a bit jarring and a bit annoying to kind of hear Mario's "let's go" voice throughout the entire movie. And don't get me wrong, I love Mario's actual voice. If anything, I thought it was really cool that they had the original voice actor Charles Martinet appear as a cameo so we can hear Mario's OG voice from the video games in the movie. It kind of reminded me of the Stan Lee cameos Marvel has for him. But yeah, in general, I would have to say that Mario's voice really fit, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. I really liked the direction they went for altogether with Mario's voice. Next, let's move on to Luigi, as his voice really fit throughout the movie as well, and he was voiced by Charlie Day. And I'm a huge fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so it was really cool to see Charlie play Luigi. And I thought it was also hilarious that he didn't really change his voice much to voice Luigi. He just kind of played himself, yet surprisingly that fits so well as Luigi. Like, his raspy, high-pitched voice just works so well with Luigi, even though that's not how you'd imagine Luigi sounding like. But surprisingly, these new voices they gave these characters worked, and I'm really surprised, especially with Chris Pratt. The second I knew Charlie Day would voice Luigi, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a perfect fit. I never really thought of that until they mentioned it. But yeah, overall, really glad that both brothers didn't have the Italian accent and that they kind of went this new direction. And yeah, I'd have to say the rest of the cast as well, because those weren't as controversial as, them changing Mario and Luigi's voices, because their voices are so distinct. But, Peach's voice kind of worked, of course. Seth Rogen playing DK worked as well. And obviously Jack Black being Bowser was absolutely perfect. I absolutely loved Bowser throughout the movie. I would have to say Bowser was easily my favorite character throughout the movie. Every time he was on screen, it was just kind of hilarious. I love the personality they gave Bowser. Throughout the video games, he's just a menacing, evil character that just kidnaps Peach, and you don't really know much about him. But in the movie, don't get me wrong, he's still very menacing, but he has so many layers now. He's way more hilarious than you would think, and I love his relationship with Peach and his obsession. And the song, I love how they used Jack Black's talent and gave him a song for Bowser. It was so good. I love the song Peaches. I thought it was genius. And yeah, easily Bowser was my favorite character throughout the movie. Now, to take a step back, I do want to talk about Princess Peach, as she was definitely the character that was changed the most compared to the video games, as it does make sense. Peach throughout the video games is the damsel in distress that just yells Mario and just gets kidnapped, and that would be so boring to see in a movie. I'm really happy that she accompanies Mario throughout the journey and they save Luigi instead. But it does feel like Mario's more so accompanying her, and she kind of just overshadows Mario altogether. Now, let me just say this first off the bat. Don't get me wrong. I like the direction they went for Peach. You know, they went for more of a girl boss type thing where she's a badass. She doesn't really need anybody. She can do everything herself. And that's cool and all. You know, I like to see that. But I feel like they definitely hammed it up a bit too much. And it seemed more so pandering than really giving Peach a badass character. Because, yeah, throughout the movie, she's just too good. Like, she has no vulnerabilities, nothing. And I don't know, it just seems like her needing help and needing Mario. She didn't really need Mario to begin with. She was doing almost everything herself, and Mario was just kind of there. And because of that, I don't know, I just felt like it would have been nice to kind of have a balance between the two. Make her a badass, but don't overdo it to where she overshadows the main character of the movie. So yeah, and it definitely was a huge step in a different direction compared to the video games. Though I do hope that this does influence Nintendo with future video games to make Peach a bit more badass, give her some more personality than being a damsel in distress. But at the same time, yeah, I still want Mario to feel like the hero and not him being the sidekick to the princess, you know. If it was a Princess Peach movie, I would totally understand, but this was a Mario movie, so it did seem just a bit weird. Again, not hating per se, and it didn't really take away my experience from the movie, but it definitely didn't seem like it was a genuine character they could have given her. It seemed more so like they're definitely just kind of catering to a certain demographic and really pushing it not to get any backlash. And to me, yeah, I wasn't really a huge fan of that. But still, altogether, I did like the direction they gave her. I just kind of wish they toned it down just a little bit. And the rest of the cast all fit pretty well, as Toad was just kind of the annoying little guy that accompanied them on their adventure, so not really much to say there. And then DK, I loved him, you know, he was just a goofball, and Seth Rogen did a pretty good job voicing him. It worked out, like, he probably perfect casting for that, him being a giant ape. And yeah, like, I did like the rivalry he had with Mario. I feel like that was a pretty cool callback, as when you really think about it, the original Mario Bros, where, you know, Mario has to jump over the barrels and try to save Pauline, that was DK, you know, throwing them, and I loved how literally DK throws barrels at him, and they have that rivalry. So it was pretty cool that they made the relationship still a good one, but kind of reflect the fact that DK was a villain at one point. And, you know, they're not just going to get along immediately. Even though DK is a good guy, you know, there is some thing in him that, you know, just makes him not like Mario that much. So overall, pretty cool. But speaking of Pauline, she was barely in the movie. I was hoping she would be shown more. But I do believe with how the ending of the movie went, there's going to be a huge connection between Brooklyn and the Mushroom Kingdom, and just overall bringing the games together, kind of like how Odyssey felt like. So probably in the sequel we'll be getting something like that. So she's felt more like a cameo slash Easter egg than a real character that is throughout the movie. But I'm not complaining whatsoever. Overall, all the main characters that you see throughout the movie all shined really well, and altogether I just really liked them as a cast and as a group throughout the entire film. Next, let's talk about the pacing of the movie, as I wasn't a huge fan of that. It seemed somewhat lackluster, and what I mean by that is things just kind of moved along way too quickly, and for that reason, a lot of context that should have been given wasn't. And well, I do understand that at the end of the day, this is a movie made for children, and with how short their attention span is, jumping from scene to scene is probably the best way to keep their engagement. I guess as an adult, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I felt like with how each character met each other, it just moved along way too quickly, and they kind of just, everything has to agree to string along the movie. And I get it, they're trying to fit Mario's entire origin condensed into a, you know, movie length, but I don't know, I just felt like we should have been given a bit more time on building up the characters, their reasoning, why they're doing what they're doing, but instead it just kind of just goes along, and because of that, it just feels like a lot of things that need to be said weren't said, and I don't know. I personally wasn't a fan of that, but again, I understand that this movie probably isn't meant for my demographic. It's meant for a much younger one. So yeah, I just might be a bit too cynical, but altogether, not a huge fan of the pacing. A good example of how like the lack of context made certain things not make sense whatsoever would be like when Peach was gonna head out to the Kong's world, their realm, to have the Kong army join them against the fight against Bowser, and she had Mario alongside with her. She mentions to the Toads, this guy doesn't matter, because they don't know who Mario is, and they all just kind of cheer like, oh, okay, whatever. And then when she comes back, she mentions she lost a Kong army, and they all gasp, and then she's like, and they lost Mario, and then they gasp even louder, and it's like, they didn't know who Mario was. She even said that he doesn't matter, and yet they're acting like they know who Mario is, and it just seemed weird, and that's just a small example. Like if anything, there's a lot more, but I just wanted to give that one because I feel like that was a really obvious thing that they shouldn't have kept in. Like if they didn't know who Mario was, why would they then act that way? But again, that's maybe just me overthinking things. So I understand the direction where they went for, and I still liked it, but it definitely was a bit too fast pacing wise for my liking. Another thing I wasn't a huge fan of as well was the score. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the remixes of the actual video game music you'd hear in the games brought to the big screen, but I didn't like the fact that they used licensed music, that especially music that you hear in so many other movies. Like, it was so lame. Like, really, like when Mario, the montage of Mario trying to get better and learn how to get through Peach's little track of training, it plays like the hero song that you hear in so many Hollywood movies, and it's just like, I don't know. It would have been nicer to hear something else, especially like a remix of a kind of heroic Mario track instead. Like, that's the whole point of it being like a video game adaptation. Taking all of those beloved things and kind of transforming it into a new medium, for a movie. But they didn't go that direction. They went the standard generic direction that every movie goes to and plays a really popular song, and just has that be the main thing. And they played a lot of them, I have to say, throughout the movie, when there should have been more remixes, if you ask me. Luckily, we did have certain moments where they did play great remixes from the actual video games, but still, in my opinion, not enough. I kind of wish there was zero licensed popular music that you'd normally hear in other movies in this movie. Next, let's talk about something I did actually really like, and that is the visuals. Now, I'm glad Nintendo wasn't pressured by what you see so much in Hollywood with live action everything. Disney's a good example of how it's taking all of its old 2D, beautiful animated movies and treating them with a live action 3D look, and they just look bad. Like, I'm not a huge fan. I understand it's making them insane amounts of money, and there is a demographic of people who enjoy that, but personally, I'm glad Nintendo didn't go that route and kind of just made a full-on 3D animation movie, and because of that, it kind of still felt like you were watching the video game come to life, without it completely butchering how you would have thought the video game would look. A good example that kind of found a good medium between the two was the Sonic movie. Of course, when the Sonic movie was first announced, they absolutely butchered Sonic's appearance, but luckily, because of feedback, they were able to fix Sonic and make him look a bit more cartoony, even though he still is a 3D realistic looking hedgehog. It was a great balance, and I'm glad Nintendo didn't even follow that route. Even with that, they just kind of went their own way and kind of stuck to the 3D animation that you see a lot of children's movies go for. But while, yeah, that's mainly only going to attract children and it might alienate a lot of older audience, I'm really happy they did it because I don't want to see Mario in a live action setting at all. I feel like this was perfect, and it's not like it didn't look bad. It looked so amazing, like easily one of the best 3D animation movies I've seen ever. Like, I have to say, I don't watch Illumination, but wow, they definitely blew it out of the park with this one. It looked absolutely amazing, and luckily the characters, even though they do have a more Disney-like vibe, and by Disney I mean like the 3D Disney, like Peach kind of reminded me of Elsa, and then Mario looks slightly different than how he looks obviously in the video games, but it didn't ruin the characters. They still feel like the video game characters, just slightly more evolved. So yeah, thankfully, them sticking to 3D animation, well, again, it could alienate a good amount of fans that could have watched it, or not fans, but just general viewers. I'm really happy they did it. Like, I prefer it, and even as an adult, I absolutely loved it, and I kind of wish that if we were to get any more video game adaptations, not to give us live action, and to continue with 3D animation, because, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Every single shot of the movie looked like a work of art. I was absolutely stunned watching it, and that alone makes it worth watching the movie, even if you're not a fan of the plot or certain aspects of it. Now, in general, while I did enjoy the movie myself, and I still thought it was really good, even though it had some flaws, I can understand why certain critics don't really like the movie, and I can also understand why people absolutely love the movie. I'm kind of on that boat, but I can still see the flaws, like I said. But if you're not a fan of Mario, like you don't really play the video games, or if you're watching it, you don't get any of the references that they show, because the movie is filled with Easter eggs and references. Yeah, so if you're not a fan of that, and in general you're just kind of watching it to see if it's a good movie just at its core, you might be a bit disappointed. I can totally see that, because again, with how fast-paced the movie is, and just how childish it may seem, it just might not seem like a good movie if you just are like completely out of, that realm of being a Nintendo fan. But I feel like any Nintendo fan will have rose-tinted goggles while watching it, because it will just be hard not to see how, it brings a video game to life. Like, seeing it on the big screen is magical for so many people, including myself. But again, I can totally understand where the criticism is coming from, but again, I feel like it's just to each their own. This isn't the movie for everyone, clearly. This is a movie for a certain demographic, it being mainly kids, and then adults who absolutely adore the video games itself. But if you're just coming in to expect a 10 out of 10, or a movie with deep story, deep plot, deep everything, you might be disappointed. If visuals is something that can carry your experience for a movie, I feel like this will definitely do it. But if it's truly just for the story, it might seem a bit shallow, it might seem a bit too simplistic. I can understand that, but yeah, for me, I thought it was just a perfect balance. And while again, I would have liked for them to give us more context and to make the movie altogether a bit more interesting, I can see where both sides are coming from in general, even though I did really enjoy it, as mentioned. Now, to kind of end off the video, I want to talk about the ending of the movie. I obviously expect anyone watching this video, especially if you've gotten this far, to have already watched the movie, but I still didn't want to spoil the actual ending and the post-credits, but here I'm gonna totally do it. So, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of the ending in general. Like, I love the fact that Mario and Luigi, like, finally the Mario Bros concept came into play, and they beat Bowser that way, but, I don't know, it definitely seemed a bit too generic, like how Mario was about to pass out and then he had to think of his brother by watching the commercial. Like, that was such a cliche that I've seen in so many movies. It's like, I wish there was something more, and Luigi trying to save him. None of it really seemed impactful. It almost seemed almost parody. Like it seemed like a parody of what you see in other movies, them trying to replicate it. So I wish they went a different direction. But once they did grab this, superstar and beat up Bowser, I was kind of happy just seeing that the bros come together. Because let's be real, Luigi was kind of neglected throughout the movie. He did get his times to shine with these scary moments of him running away and stuff like that. But I mean, that's not really that heroic. So him finally seeming like a hero at the very end was really nice to see. So it ended off nicely. I thought it was a pretty nice Easter egg of how Bowser ends up in the bottle, kind of like how he captured in Super Mario 3D World all the fairies in the bottle. He got a taste of his own medicine. And then obviously in the credits when he plays Peaches again and gets interrupted, pretty funny. One thing though I did find a bit much, that like an overused joke though, is like when Mario finally becomes a badass and jumps in the air, he gets bitten by a piranha, Peach is staring at him, and it kind of ruins the moment of how he's a heroic dude. And then when Luigi and Mario jump in the air, and then they get bitten by a piranha, ruining that moment for their parents. I'm like, really? You didn't have to do it again? I can understand the callback, but it just seemed like an overused joke. I'm not hating. I just thought though, easily just like them overusing a joke. So I understand it was meant to be a callback, but I don't know. I just thought it was a bit much. The one thing though I really didn't like in the ending was the post credit sequence, like little scene. And in my eyes, okay, what I was expecting was the blue Luma that you see that just wants death and is kind of the comedic relief in the dark moments for all the captured characters by Bowser. I thought what we were going to see was him finally returning to Rosalina, and maybe we would have saw like a glimpse of her, maybe like just a shot of her, with her face cut out, just like her lower body, maybe reaching her hand towards the Luma, like letting us know that the sequel will have Rosalina and maybe go to the galaxy, because Peach does mention in the movie to Mario there are many galaxies, and kind of letting him know that there isn't just, the few kingdoms we've seen, there's way more beyond this. I thought that would have been a much cooler post-credit sequence, but maybe the sequel won't have Mario go to space yet. Maybe they're saving that for the third movie in the trilogy of Mario movies. They could already be planning that. But instead, what we did get though, so that was what I was expecting for a post-credit sequence. What we got instead was a Yoshi egg being cracked. But throughout the actual movie, you see a bunch of Yoshis run, and it's like, what was the point of showing us an egg crack when we've already seen Yoshi start the movie? It's not like, we never actually saw Yoshi up close throughout the entire movie, so I guess it was a new thing to see, but it's like, that wasn't that exciting. Like, maybe I guess what they mean by that is maybe Yoshi's gonna try to make his way back to his island, and Yoshi's Island will be in the sequel, but I don't know. It was a pretty lame post-credit like scene. I felt like they should have given us something a bit more. Again, obviously the sequel has yet to be announced, and it's probably far from now. But I feel like they should have given us a much better teaser. Seeing a Yoshi egg crack did not mean that much to me. But please let me know what you guys thought of the movie in the comments below. Again, this is just my initial reaction. When the actual Blu-ray does come out, I'm totally buying that. I need to be able to just watch it at home, full screen, enjoy it outside of a theater. And when that does happen, and to where I can actually dissect it and break it down, I'll probably make a full-on review, because this is Nintendo's first movie of like their main franchise. This is pretty much the first movie ever, so I feel like it's a big step towards Nintendo, just doing something completely new. And I definitely want to give my in-depth opinions on it all, and I feel like I do need to watch it again to gain more perspective. So this, again, what I'm saying now is just my initial thoughts and reactions. it might change over time, and if it does, after I do get my hands on the Blu-ray when it does come out, I'll definitely be making an updated, more scripted, well-edited version of my review of the movie. So do expect that, but I thought it'd be fun for just right now to give you my initial thoughts and to hear your guys' thoughts. So please let me know what you guys thought of what I mentioned throughout this review, but also what you guys think in general, and I would love to hear it. But I guess that about does it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, kind of a simple sort of video, more of a discussion, but hey, you know, while the movie's still fresh on everyone's minds, I thought it would just be fun to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed it for what it is. Please leave a like to show your support. I'm not really expecting much support on this random video, but I would really appreciate it if you guys do show some, and just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But anyways, that about does it for this video. As always, I've been ZM, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.